Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have cows. Cows are one of the sweetest and cutest animals out there, and it totally makes sense why people call them grass puppies. The area around Chernobyl was known for its agriculture before the disaster, so of course that means there were definitely a lot of cows that could be found. Since farm animals are not only expensive but can also be used as a source of income, many people took their farm animals with them, but many of these animals had already been exposed to the radiation in some capacity, and while it didn't affect them right away, the newer generations saw much more of the effects. In 1989, many farmers began reporting birth defects in their animals, some being much more severe than others. As time went on, the cows became less mutated, but that doesn't mean the effects went away. As the cows continued to graze on feed that was contaminated, the effects became more internal. This has led completely normal looking cows near the exclusion zone to begin producing milk that is toxic and not fit for consumption. This is just one of the clear examples of how, even though the visible effects may have worn off, there are still lasting effects that we probably hadn't previously considered. In our number 9 spot today, we have barn swallows. Any animal who lives in the exclusion zone have been affected by the disaster, and that includes those who spend most of their time in the sky. I'm obviously talking about birds. The barn swallows in Chernobyl are one animal who have seen a change in their physical appearance that has lasted all of the years since the nuclear meltdown. It is unclear why these birds have been affected greater than their land animal counterparts, or if these changes will ever reverse to their previous state, but here's what they are currently dealing with. The swallows appeared to have severely deformed beaks, disproportionate feathers, some had partial albinism, and they were seen to have much smaller brains. Of course, some of these issues are much worse than others, and I'm sure these changes have significantly affected their ways of life, but of course they continue to adapt as time goes on. It is sad that this human-made disaster has affected them in such a negative way, but the fact that they are still around really shows their adaptability and resilience. In our number 8 spot today, we have boars. Boars are often seen wandering around the exclusion zone, but they also make their way into the surrounding towns as well, which is creating quite a problem. Boars are a fairly common food source, and it's not unusual to come across one, but here's the problem if you live in the area: how are you supposed to tell which boars are radioactive and which aren't? Basically, you can't until it's too late. The boars who aren't radioactive might come across and intermingle with one who is, but they also like to eat mushrooms, and if they're searching for their food within the exclusion zone, it's a highly likely possibility that they'll find themselves eating a radioactive mushroom. This is posing quite a problem. In 2017, there was a study that found that approximately 1 out of every 3 boars that were killed in the nearby areas of Germany, which for the record isn't even that close to Chernobyl, have been found to be radioactive and super unsafe for human consumption. You'd think that being that far away would make you safe, but as we clearly now know, the effects of the disaster stretched far and wide. In our number 7 spot today, we have Przewalski's horse. These horses first originated in Mongolia and were wild horses that became endangered. They first became endangered due to hunters who would often kill the stallion, which of course would provide many difficulties in terms of reproduction. These horses weren't doing well in captivity, which made things even more difficult. This, combined with the harsh winters which would often claim their lives, left things looking quite grim for this species. In the late 1990s, however, in an effort to help repopulate these animals, 30 of them were released into the Ukrainian side of the exclusion zone, and it is believed that some of these original horses are actually still alive today, which is amazing, but camera trap images have also shown young horses, which means that they are repopulating, which is a huge win. Their expanding population in such a harsh environment could mean that they might potentially be able to return from the brink and go on to continue as a species, which is something we always want to see. In our number 6 spot today, we have cats. In the rush of the evacuation, many pets were left behind in Chernobyl, and that of course includes cats. With little to do and of course more kittens being born, this paved the way for a group of feral cats to take over the exclusion zone. These cats wander in and out of the zone and find all of their favorite snacks, such as radioactive rodents or the less common radioactive insects. These cats certainly have had quite a difficult time surviving, as they are a perfect tasty snack for much larger predators and are certainly not equipped to deal with the harsh winters, but even still, there is said to be at least 100 stray cats living in the exclusion zone. There are efforts underway to have the uncontaminated ones put up for adoption, but the difficulty is in testing them and also re-domesticating these animals who have had to fend for themselves for so long. In our number 5 spot today, we have dogs. Since we just talked about the cats who were sadly left behind, it's only fair we talk about the dogs too. It's strange that these two domesticated animals would have such different experiences after the disaster, but they they absolutely have. There are far more dogs who have managed to survive throughout the years than cats, but that is most likely due to the fact that they aren't as easy to catch and eat as prey as cats are. But dogs have a whole other challenge, and that is they have a hard time hunting and feeding themselves. There are workers who continue to work the dangerous job at the plant, and they continually feed the dogs living in the zone, which is something that truthfully is so nice to hear. It is also said that there are dogs living in this area that have begun mating with wolves, which is only going to breed dogs that will be more likely to be able to survive on their own, which I suppose is a good thing. Similar to the cats, many of the stray dogs are being studied to see if they can be adopted into homes outside of the zone so that they don't have to continue living in these harsh environments that they really were not bred for. In our number 4 spot today we have European grey wolves. One of the species of animals that has been thriving ever since the disastrous nuclear meltdown has been the European grey wolf. Due to the lack of humans in the Chernobyl exclusion zone, they have been able to thrive, and it has been said that the wolves in this area actually have a population that is 7 times higher than that of comparable sites. Researchers are still trying to figure out exactly why this is happening, but it has obviously shown them that despite the effects of radiation in humans, the radiation clearly isn't affecting the wildlife's ability to reproduce. So this seems like just a regular grey wolf, but here's where things get a little different. Just because the wolves seem to be doing fine doesn't mean they aren't radioactive. These wolves, since they're such a high population, are beginning to travel farther and spread out more, which creates quite a problem. Not that we're just going up and petting wolves, but if you did come in contact with one of these wolves, you'd be getting a high dose of radiation just by touching them. Touching a carcass of these wolves with bare hands is absolutely not recommended. So while it is absolutely incredible to see the wildlife doing so well in this zone, we are now faced with an entirely different issue that we haven't really ever had before. In our number 3 spot today we have the Eurasian lynx. This one is on this list for a different reason than most. It isn't because of anything this animal is or isn't doing, but instead is due to the fact that this animal was once believed to have entirely disappeared from Europe. It was fairly recently in 2014 that researchers realized they had made a comeback in a big way. Similar to most of the animals we've talked about today, the Eurasian lynx has been able to thrive due to the lack of human population and interference. Their downfall was attributed to urbanization as well as hunters, and they were mostly wiped out in the early 20th century, although they remained in certain parts of Siberia. There is still a lot more research that needs to be done about these creatures to determine exactly how radioactive they are, and this will take time due to the dangers of the zone they reside in, as well as the nature of these creatures in general. But just being able to see that an animal that was struggling has been able to make such a comeback is probably one of the best things to come out of such a horrible disaster. In our number 2 spot today we have bison. Bison are right up there with wolves for most dangerous radioactive animal, and that is due to their size as well as the fact that they are a source of food for some. These huge animals can weigh up to 2,200 pounds and are certainly not an animal that is easily messed with. Many bison weren't affected by the radiation immediately, and instead it became much more of an issue once they started eating food that had been contaminated. They like to feed on grass, and a lot of it, and the radiation didn't only affect animal life but plant life as well, making their food source a literal feeding ground for radioactive material. Similar to the wolves we talked about before, running into these guys isn't only a threat now because of their size, but now because if you get too close, you could be facing some unsafe levels of radiation. In our number 1 spot today we have spiders. I've talked about my hatred for spiders a lot on this channel, but to be honest, they keep doing cool things, so I have to keep talking about them. Okay, well maybe this one is less cool and more scary, but still, they deserved a spot. Spiders that are residing within the exclusion zone are of course radioactive, but it's not only the spiders that are now dangerous to touch, but it is also their webs. Spiders in Chernobyl are literally making radioactive webs, which is the stuff straight out of a comic book. These radioactive webs are also being woven in much different ways than they were before, which would suggest some sort of genetic mutation at play. Spiders were already a creature I'd like to stay far, far away from, but radioactive spiders really adds a whole other level. Not only are the spiders now dangerous for non-radioactive animals to touch, but walking through their web is equally as dangerous to those who aren't thriving in the radiation. So not only do you have to watch out for the regular old radioactive material, but now also the never-ending construction of radioactive webs. Great.
Kicking off the list at number 10. mystery spider. Yeah, for this first one, we're not even sure what kind of spider it is. How calming is that? Let's do it. Some kind of spider is making what's referred to as silkhenge. Yeah, this piece of spider art was first discovered back in 2013 by Troy Alexander, who posted a photo of it on the internet, asking for help in identifying what exactly he's looking at, but no one could help identify it because it's a totally unknown phenomenon. These structures are created by spiders or some sort of spider to help with reproduction because they're protecting their eggs. It looks quite alien, but this is all just to protect little baby spiders in that middle tip. There's one main spire that's constructed of spider silk, and that's where the eggs are contained, and then surrounding that spire is sort of a circular fence that is also made of spider silk. Similar appearance to Stonehenge, hence the name Silkhenge. But to this day, we haven't found much. This was discovered back in 2013, and only a year ago, we got more information. Tropical science communicator Phil Torres recently visited Peru, and he got footage in 4K. It's beautiful. We no longer have to slide through the same 3 grainy photos. Check this out. Torres explains how this research has affected his well-being, obviously. He said it's the thing that keeps him up at night because it's so annoyingly hard to find. Despite having seen it in so many places he goes, the next time it's like it was never there at all. Yeah, that's frustrating. It's also tiny too. In this recent clip, it's beautiful. Again, high definition. You can really see how intricate the work is, but Torres also discovered that these things are tiny and they come in clusters. So if you find one, there's probably a few nearby. Also, don't destroy it. We still have no idea who or what's making these silkhenges, so take some photos, hang out a bit, do some research. Number 9, the Brazilian wandering spider. Its bite can give you an erection that lasts for hours. That's a real fact, and that's how I'm going to start this point here. This animal is dangerous. Its bite, of course, will hurt you. You'll be sweating, blood pressure will increase, hence that side effect. They're more commonly known as banana spiders, so guess I can't eat bananas anymore. There goes my favorite snack. These little guys have been listed as the world's most venomous spider in a handful of years in the Guinness Book of World Records. We love records, record-breaking spiders. If its name didn't already tip you off, these things can be found in Brazil. There's 8 different kinds of wandering spiders. Avoid them all. That's my advice here on MA 10. That's it. How does that sound? Boom. Science is quite interesting here. They're trying to create the next Viagra using the spider's venom. That's why I started with that wild side effect. There's always a point to it. I'm not just being silly all the time. The future is here, friends, and apparently it's filled with spiders. Just cuts to a bunch of old dudes in the woods just hanging out like, please. Number 8. Bullet ants. They're called bullet ants because their bite feels like a bullet wound. Promising start. Awesome. They're also referred to as the Paraponera clavata, but that sounds like a dark curse in Harry Potter, so we're going to call them the bullet ant for now. They're commonly found in tropical rainforests in Central and South America. Their sting is considered, the most powerful in the world, hence the bullet thing, and its effects can last 24 hours. Yeah, another fun nickname for them is a 24-hour ant. They're also the world's largest ant, so you can really see it coming. You should see it coming, worst case scenario. These guys get you in a colony though, game over. There's a good chance you won't even survive at all. One bite is bad enough, let alone a colony. Its venom's so powerful, it's being studied right now for its use as a pesticide. Yeah, we're sacrificing ants to further our research on how to sacrifice ants. This is dark. That sounds pretty dark when you say it like that. There's actually an indigenous Amazonian tribe in Brazil, and they use bullet ant stings as part of a ceremonial process to become a warrior. I would not pass. I wouldn't even make it to the island. I'm not good with bugs. They have to keep a straight face the entire time whilst getting bit. That's so impressive. Number 7, dart frog. You may be thinking, thank God, a frog, something cute, something unlike the bullet ant. Guess again. Not this time. Small but mighty, the poison dart frog is one of the deadliest animals on Earth. I left the word poison out of the title. I juked you out. I did it on purpose. Its shiny yellow skin will certainly attract the eye, but if you decide to try and, catch one of these slippery boys, its poison can kill 10 fully grown adults. All bad. Indigenous hunters figured this out and they coated the tips of their arrows or darts in this toxin. The toxin created naturally here is called batrachotoxin. Another creature we've mentioned on this channel before that also has the same toxin is the pitui bird. That's in Australia though, it's far away. Either way, a lot of poison moving around us in nature. It's actually pretty alarming. Birds and frogs, I'm just gonna stay home. I'm just gonna stay home and do this all day. Number 6, mosquitoes. These guys suck, no matter where you are, but when it comes to the Amazon, like everything else, it's much worse than you could ever imagine. Mosquitoes are one of the most dangerous because they can fly, and you don't see them coming. And once they get you, the damage has already been done. They're just full of blood. How gross is that? They're horrible. If you travel to parts of the Amazon rainforest and you don't have yellow fever vaccinations or extremely strong mosquito repellent, you're gonna have a bad time. These suckers are clouds of malaria just waiting for you to walk into by accident. And then you go, oh, and it's too late. Number 5, decoy spider. Oh, these are all horrible. These decoy building spiders are exceptionally small, but super smart. These spiders only measure to be about 5 millimeters in length, but you might see a much larger spider hanging out in a web that they've created. See, this might sound scary, but this large spider is actually a fake spider. It's a decoy. It's a decoy spider that the small spider built out of various materials like food scraps, debris, even their old skin to make a bigger, scarier spider. That's horrible. I wish I didn't know this. Look, art is subjective, okay, that's for sure. I don't think this is the most lovely piece of animal art on the planet, but it works. It gets the job done. A rather impressive defense mechanism for such a tiny little dude. These spiders were only discovered pretty recently, so again, not much is known about them, as there still needs to be tons of research done, just like the other horrible spider on this list. It is, however, believed that this is a feature that has evolved in this particular spider, so it's possible we've only recently discovered it because it's a new feature. Yeah, how neat is that? Hey, spiders are learning new tricks. Hit that thumbs up. I'm so scared. Cheers. Number 4, the electric eel. First of all, never rub an electric eel like they're a genie lamp. You're gonna want 3 more wishes if you do that, my friend. That was the moray eel. That one can bite your fingers off, which is horrible. But you should never touch an eel in the first place because a lot of them are electric. As its name hints towards, these type of eels can mess you up even if you weren't to get the first hit. Specifically, the newly discovered 2.5 meter Electrophorus volti. Yeah, the Electrophorus volti. No, that's not a new hybrid car coming out on the market. This is a dangerous beast. It was appropriately named after Alessandro Volta, aka the guy who invented the battery, and it can release a shock up to 860 volts, more than 7 times the voltage of your average wall plug. It was recently discovered only a year ago that electric eels in Amazon rivers like to travel in packs. They like to travel with their friends, and they all head to the bar together. How fun is that? Packs of electric water snakes. Does it get worse than that? It can't get worse than that, can it? Number 3, black caiman. It can get worse than that. It can get a lot worse than that. If you're not a fan of alligators, you might want to skip to the next one. Black caiman is the largest family member in the Alligator Day crew. These super alligators live in calm, slow moving rivers, places you wouldn't expect, you know, a dinosaur to be and jump out at you, essentially. Just like dangerous river snakes, one I might talk about later, these black caiman will take it slow and just wait for their prey to have a sip of water. And then at that point, the largest predator in the Amazon will grab its lunch and quickly return to the water, just like that. Be very loud and very fast. This thing eats birds, it eats reptiles, mammals even. Yeah. This thing can and will eat everything. Between 2008 and 2013 alone, there were 43 black caiman attacks on people. Yeah, a handful of these attacks were fatal. I'll leave it at that. Number 2, pink dolphins. We'll do a nice one before we do the horrible big bad number 1. Deal? Deal. Pink dolphins of the Amazon River. They're the largest of all river dolphins, and adults, more often than not, males end up turning pink as they age, and we have no idea why. Scientists aren't exactly sure why these guys are pink or why the color comes later in life, seeing as, you know, they're born gray. Our leading theory here is that the color is brought on by scar tissue that results from fighting with other dolphins or predators. I'm sure it's not an easy go, you know, swimming through schools of electric eels and all that jazz, so yeah, fair, it could be a pretty rough environment. Some old legends hilariously mention that pink dolphins maybe can turn into a handsome man in the evenings, and then during this time they would hypnotize and seduce young women before turning back into dolphins again near sunrise. Yeah, forget Morbius. I want to see that movie. That's a supervillain origin story I would pay to see. The pink dolphin handsome man. He has one day to find love, and then he turns back into a dolphin. Number 1, green anacondas. Of course, we have to talk about the anaconda, specifically the green anaconda. It's green like the Hulk, because it's always angry and scary and violent. This movie came out 25 years ago. I remember watching Anaconda with my family, and it made me extremely afraid of snakes, actually. This was probably the one that did it. So how accurate was that film? Although the green anaconda is a non-venomous snake, the boa constrictor is still one of the most dangerous ever. It's the most feared, definitely the most feared. Green anacondas live in calm marshes or slow streams, and again, they wait until their large prey gets thirsty, and once they come to the water, the anaconda suffocates and wraps around its lunch. Yeah. Anacondas hunt prey that's larger than us humans, so if they wanted to, they could for sure eat us. There's only no evidence of it happening because humans rarely interact with them in general, so anacondas probably don't know they could eat us. Green anacondas can reach lengths of up to 30 feet, so plenty of space for you and yours. Awesome. You and yours. He ends it on a crack, on a voice crack. That's great. That's how scared I am of this anaconda. Kicking off the list at number 10, ice worms. Yeah, ice worms. Need I say any more right there? Ice worms, that's terrifying by themselves. I'm dodging these suckers all spring. Now I gotta worry about winter too. Get out of town. I'm Canadian. We don't need ice worms. Come on, we have ice in general. That's bad enough. The only time a worm lives its life in glacial ice is in, you guessed it, Alaska. Yeah, all these things are in Alaska, in case you didn't already know that. All my life I've seen worms shrivel up and fade away on the sidewalk. They just evaporate, it's so horrible. But I've never even seen a worm near ice. Is that even possible? Apparently so. They're supposed to run out of fuel and die off, but ice worms are like the Energizer Bunny. These things just keep going, even if they're frozen. Little Captain America worms. Should that icy temperature rise, however, above freezing, well, that's when it becomes slower and dies off the way that we see every worm go. You know, just in a horrible, gross way. Honestly, these things are super cool. I'm not a fan of worms, obviously, but scientifically, these guys are so alien. They're pretty cool. I had to kick off the list with them. Teach me your ways. I'm always so cold. Again, hate Canada. I'm just kidding, that's fine. Number 9, banana slugs. This one's pretty gross too, I'm not gonna lie. Get the gross ones out of the way right off the hop. Banana slugs get their name because of their yellow color. They are not yummy. They have nothing to do with bananas. They do not taste like bananas at all. Nothing like banana medicine. That one's pretty close. They're also quite large, these slugs, but the thing that really sets them apart here is that they have a single lung that's exposed. I know, as I said that, you probably went, ugh. Yeah, it's horrible. It's one of the worst things I've read. Alaskan banana slugs are dark green, so even creepier, dare I say, than the average. And these slugs need to stay wet at all times. I wanted to say that they stay, you know, something that starts with the letter M, but we don't like that word, apparently. This word would have been perfect for said organism. Moist. There, I said it. These slugs are also hermaphrodites. They have all the reproductive organs needed for the fun. Only after a mating season, they'll kind of Black Widow the other party. Yeah, nature's wild. Olivia, don't eat me. Thanks. Number 8, new whale species. You may be thinking, how does one miss a whale for this long? Aren't they insanely large? Haven't we found them all? I would hope. Well, when a 20-foot long whale washed up on the beach in Alaska, researchers studied it and came to the conclusion that this species of whale, specifically called the Baird's beaked whale, upon further investigation is part of an entirely new species of whale. Yep, we thought we knew what it was. Different. A new whale from 2014, and we didn't even know it for a couple years. This new discovery has darker flesh, and the dorsal fin was bigger and floppier. It was bigger and floppier. Imagine a scientist saying that. Yeah, it's bigger and floppier. They're like, great, heard. The only other whale with the same genetic code that can be studied was found in a nearby high school gymnasium. Yeah, not alive. It was the skeleton. It was just, you know, up there for morale, I guess. Nothing gets the kids going on the beep test than a skeleton above. Just a whale skeleton. Like they were in the Avengers and they just, I don't know. Where is this? Alaska? Wild. Next time you talk smack about your high school mascot, make sure it's not a rare fish that's previously undiscovered. Yeah, always take a look. Check yourself, Bradley. Stop making fun of your mascots. My mascot was a dragon. But not like a cool dragon though. He was like a lame dragon. I'll move on. Number 7, needle snout monster. This one comes from around 200 million years ago, so not that new. This fossil had been discovered recently, however. It was discovered back in 2011 on an island just a few feet above sea level, so it was almost pretty close to fading away forever. It looks like an ancient iguana almost. It's a marine reptile thalattosaur. It's a new discovery from that time. This thing was roaming around Alaska 200 million years ago. I used to think humans were born too late. This pointy-nosed dude has changed my mind, my friends. We love science. We love finding things late. It's the only intact thalattosaur fossil ever discovered in North America, which is pretty sweet. Pat Druckenmiller, director of the University of Alaska Museum of the North, sounds like something from Game of Thrones, the Museum of the North. He really thinks this is a fascinating find, and rightfully so. The snout is pointed. It's literally razor sharp. This guy would have been an absolute menace back then. Thank God he's gone. Now instead we have to deal with these guys. Number 6, nudibranchs. Yes, nudibranchs. We love saying it. Go tell all your friends. Hey, know what I learned about? Nudibranch. Nudibranch. These little things are so strange, I cannot wait to talk about them. These soft gastropod mollusks are too cool for their shell. Yeah, they're so fancy, they're just like, I'll just be naked forever, no problem. They show it all, no shame. They're fancy sea slugs, basically. Their colors have made them the subjects of many nicknames. Obviously, these have been baffling sailors for centuries. There's more to them than you'd think. They can smell and taste through their fingertips. What a feature. I can't tell if I would want this or never ever want this. What's cooking? That's horrible. I would eat things through my hands all the time. Oh my God. I'd steal treats from my friends' backpacks. There's over 3,000 types of these dudes all waiting to be explored on Alaska's ocean floor. If you want to get an up-close look yourself, just know they're quite good at absorbing toxins from predators and then storing them for later on. So tread lightly. Don't be poking anything. Watch out for colorful deep sea spaghetti. Always keep your eye open for deep sea spaghetti. You'll see them coming also. These things are giant and they look like they're from Avatar. You won't miss them. Number 5, a strange catch. When you fish off Alaska's coast, you really never know what you reel in. Sea creatures are already creepy enough, but imagine pulling up this thing. Back in 2019, an angler named Sarah Alford pulled up this alien looking sea creature. And when she posted her catch online, everybody else was like, great, what is it though? And no one had any idea what this thing was, including herself. Everybody was just as confused as she was. What planet did you catch this thing on? The clip got millions of views, no problem. People were upset in the comments even, saying not to pull him out of the water because he couldn't breathe. But then other comments are like, yeah, but why? What is it? Is it a fish? Does that mean that's a fish? Turns out this thing is a basket star, a species of Shinoderm, AKA sea star. Yeah, it's just a fancy starfish. Yeah, not all starfish look like starfish. Sometimes they look like inside out aliens. Sometimes they look like haunted bowls of ramen. The more you know. Number 4, pyrosomes. I've said it once and I will say it again. The ocean, the sea, hell, even the lake sometimes. Nope, not going in. I'm gonna stay dry forever. It's home to a lot of weird stuff. There's a lot of weird stuff hiding in the water. Starfish that look like they're inside out, jellyfish that age in reverse. It's all truly alien. The more we find, the happier lad I am on the land. Like pyrosomes, for example. This is straight out of, I don't know, hell? These tropical tube-shaped sea creatures are appearing in the millions near Alaska. Why? Wouldn't you like to know? They began to show up back in 2017 and we're still figuring out what's going on with them. They're these foot-long tubes. They're these glowing sea tubes. They look like deflated sea pickles almost. They're so odd. Just sad sea balloons. Researchers at NOAA's Alaska Fisheries Center are shocked because they've never seen pyrosomes travel this far north before. Where are they going? Why? Why is it becoming a common sighting in Alaskan waters now? These numbers are so high that when fishermen are finding them, they're clogging all their gear up. Yeah, their nets are just layered in this goop. Just jellyfish balloon goop. Nice, we love it. Number 3, the basking shark. Translating to large-nosed sea monster, nice, for good reason there, I guess. The basking shark is something I hope I never run into at any point in my life. Even in an aquarium, I don't wanna see it. I'll close my eyes and walk through that entire exhibit. I don't wanna look at it. They swim around the surface of the water, first of all, scary, and search for tiny food. They search for plankton. Despite how big and scary their mouths are, their meal is preferably tiny. Basking sharks will go years without seeing one of these. Basking sharks will go years without seeing one of these, but once we do, we're in luck. Because more often than not, basking sharks will travel in large numbers, and they're found in both the Atlantic and the Pacific. As of 2019, basking sharks were considered endangered thanks to overfishing. Yeah, they have some biological mysteries behind them though. The basking shark mouth is massive and, like I said before, quite scary, but otherwise it's pretty normal. Basking shark females, however, they only have one functioning ovary, and it's always the same every time. It's always on the right side, and we're still not quite sure why. Number 2, red squirrels. Okay, so Olivia told me recently that black squirrels in Toronto, they aren't a thing everywhere. They are not a thing in Regina. But over in Toronto, my whole life I've seen black squirrels everywhere, maybe even more so than a brown squirrel. So this one I had to throw in because I simply don't know anymore. My whole life is now a lie. I could be colorblind for all I know. Because now we got red squirrels over in Alaska. Like red, like mighty red. These things look like Vikings. A common sighting over there. They have these cute white bellies. They look straight out of a fairy tale. That's another thing. Every time you see a squirrel in a book, it's always brown. I can't confidently tell you what color squirrels are anymore. Zebras, I got, that's fine. Zebras, no problem. Squirrels, no clue. The only squirrels I see downtown Toronto look like they just got a buzz cut out of nowhere. They're like losing hair, they have bald spots. I don't know, these squirrels are up to no good. I don't wanna know what's going on. You ever see a squirrel that clearly just got into an altercation and you're like, hey little guy? I can't talk to Toronto squirrels. Squirrels are too scary. Alaskan red squirrels, those are awesome. We like those. Those are probably a bit more gentle. They don't have to dodge taxi cabs. And finally, number 1, the king crab. Okay, I'm not great with spiders. You've seen this, you know this on this channel here. And crabs, in case you're wondering, nope, no better. They're larger and they can swim. 2 more red flags, my friends. Not a big fan of crabs, but the Alaskan king crab, they're honestly pretty impressive. I had to put them at number 1. They're an OG. They have the name Alaskan in their name. You know what I mean? They've made their home. These king crabs can reach up to 5 feet wide. A giant sea spider, great. But instead of 8 legs, they only have 6. But the massive claws that resemble boxing gloves, those don't feel too good on your skin. You want to avoid that. The bizarre thing about these yummy sea creatures with the Alaskan king crab is that their right claw is often way bigger than the left. and that claw is more often than not their weapon. That's their go-to weapon. So they're not right or left-handed. They're just like, oh, what's bigger? This one? Sure. That's how they pick which-handed they are.
Starting off this countdown, we have the extinct bat. In 2019, the Hill's horseshoe bat species were spotted for the first time in 40 years. The bats are home to a Rwandan rainforest. Scientists figured that they were endangered and had gone extinct already, since they hadn't seen them in years. That was until 2019 when scientists were on a 10-day expedition, and they came across these little guys. But when they first captured the bat, they didn't know how great their discovery was going to be. One scientist said, and I quote, "We knew immediately that the bat we had captured was unusual and remarkable. The facial features were exaggerated to the point of being comical. It took them 3 years to then identify what species this bat belonged to. Once they did, that's when they realized that this bat was brought back to life." In our 9th spot, we have Catagonus wagneri. Back in the day, this animal was discovered from early fossil records. They were thought to be extinct and people only knew about them because of the fossils. That was until 1974. That's when a biology professor from University of Connecticut rediscovered them while on a research expedition. In fact, the species was well known to the native people there. However, they are badly endangered. A huge population of them live in a 2,400-acre area in Grand Chaco. They hide out in the bushy, thorny areas so that they're safe from predators and local hunters. Sadly, only approximately 3,000 remain in the world. Moving on to number 8, we have Tarsier. Now these guys are undeniably cute. Just look at its eyes, like they're so cute and big for its tiny little body. But strangely enough, scientists still don't know much about them. One of the reasons being is that scientists thought that they went extinct in the 1920s. But in May of the early 2000s, while checking a rat trap that they had set in the forest, scientists discovered that they had actually caught a pygmy tarsier. Sadly, it had died in the trap. But that's what let them know that they were still alive, minus that one. Then in 2008, researchers found a family of them in Lore Lindu National Park. Nowadays, it's believed that there are only 5,000 to 10,000 of these animals in the whole world. And that number is sadly falling again instead of rising. Now this is because these little creatures don't live too long in captivity. In fact, when they are in distress, they apparently try to take their own lives. So that's a reason why it's hard to look after these little guys and keep them off the endangered list. In our 7th spot today, we have the goblin shark. Now if you all have been a fan of this channel for a while, then you guys know that I hate this guy. Like, I'm not scared of sharks, but this guy, like, he's terrifying. He doesn't even look like a shark. He looks like a mutated shark. Like a shark that scientists tried to cross with a human or something. Anyways, goblin sharks were believed to have gone extinct millions of years ago. That was until 1891 when researchers spotted it off the coast of Japan. Instantly they were confused, but also scared, because again, look at this thing. What they found the weirdest though is that this shark barely changed over time. They didn't evolve at all. They still look the exact same, hence why they are called a living fossil. So these creatures can grow 12 feet long and can weigh up to 460 pounds. But in 2000, they found a giant goblin shark that was 20 feet long. So now researchers say that they have no real idea about how big they can truly get. Now the scariest part about them is that they have these weird ligaments in their jaw, and that allows them to extend their mouths out and snatch up their prey. Plus, their mouths launch out pretty fast. That's also why it makes their mouth look so creepy, you know? In our 6th spot, we have the tequila fish. And it's a very interesting name for a fish. I hope their relatives are called the vodka fish. So these fish disappeared from the Mexican wild in 2003. This was due to pollution and invasive species. People thought there was no hope, that these fish were just gonna die off. But turns out that conservationists were able to bring them back to life after a decades-long operation. Basically, scientists at Michoacán University in Mexico took 5 pairs of these fish in 1998. They then kept the fish safe, studied them, and then they made them reproduce to develop a larger colony. After 4 years in artificial ponds, scientists were able to increase these 5 fish to 10,000. However, only 1,500 were released back into the wild. And apparently the released fish are thriving and reproducing out in the wild. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the coelacanth. You're not gonna believe this, but these fish were around when dinosaurs roamed the earth. In fact, they were believed to have gone extinct alongside the dinosaurs. Then, millions of years later, they were rediscovered. In the 19th century, scientists discovered a fossil of this fish. This fossil was over 410 million years old. They thought they went extinct around 66 million years ago. So it shocked scientists quite a bit when in 1938 they rediscovered them off the coast of South Africa. They're just alive and thriving. In our fourth spot, we have the singing dog. This animal has been named the singing dog due to their distinctive howl. Sometimes they howl together to form kind of like a choir. Apparently their howls sound like a cross between a wolf's howl and a whale's song. They are also called the New Guinea Highland dogs and are closely related to the Australian dingo. Now, wildlife biologists thought that these animals went extinct sometime in the 1970s. However, in 2016 they were rediscovered in a remote region of New Guinea. Tests were run on them and it was confirmed that they were the same breed. In our third spot, we have the tree lobster, which is not an animal, so I'm technically cheating having it on today's list because it's an insect, but who cares, okay? The tree lobster is a large black stick insect. In fact, it is said to be one of the rarest insects on Earth. Back in the day, they were popular for fishing, as they were used for fishing bait. But by the 1920s, they were said to be extinct. Basically, a ship accidentally crashed onto an island and rats aboard the ship got introduced onto the island and threatened these species. But later on, a pair of Australian scientists discovered 24 of these bugs living beneath a single shrub. They ended up taking 2 pairs, breeding them, and then reintroducing more of these insects to help repopulate them. In our second spot today, we have the night parrot. Night parrots are often referred to as one of the world's most mysterious birds. They were first discovered in 1845 and were extremely rare to spot. That's because they come out at night and only in remote areas. Even then, there had not been a single sighting of these birds for 100 years, so they were declared extinct. That was until 1979 when a number of them were spotted again. In fact, this bird is the holy grail for bird watchers. Some spend decades hoping to get a glimpse of this bird up close. And in our number 1 spot today, we had the Kashmir musk deer. But I like to call them the vampire deer because they have vampire fangs. So these deer are native to Afghanistan, India, Pakistan, and western Nepal. It was believed that they went extinct in 1948 until they were rediscovered in 2009. However, they are badly endangered. It's said that there are less than 5,000 musk deer throughout the world. The main reason being is because they are a very popular target for hunters. Hunters like to kill them for their musk glands, which are often used in perfumes. They are said to be a rare aphrodisiac and can sell for around $45,000 per kilogram. Now, it is illegal to hunt for them, but that still doesn't stop people.